In today's video, I do a tutorial playthrough of Company of Heroes 2nd Edition. But before we get into today's video, just want to share with you what the GGGGs are for this month. Each month, Bob the Poleholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this month of June of 2025, we have a pledge for the Darkshire 2 Kickstarter campaign. We have 2 pledges for the Kraken Studios Fantasy Stadium's Gates of Glory. And we have $100 going towards a crowdfunding campaign, which my Patreon supporters are currently voting upon. Go ahead and use the link below to go to my Patreon page where you can find out more information on how you can get in on this month's GGGGs. If you haven't seen my how to paint tutorial videos, go ahead and check them out here, where I show you how I painted up all of this terrain as well as every single faction that is available for this game, including all of the expansions, as I went all in on the Kickstarter for the 2nd edition of Company of Heroes. I finally have had a chance to play with all of these awesome painted miniatures, and hopefully if you have this game, you are working hard on painting them up because it has some awesome table presence and it makes a big difference if your miniatures are painted. And if you've never painted anything before, go ahead and check out my tutorials, because even if you have no experience, you can paint these up. Guaranteed, it's going to look better than if you just leave them in regular colored plastic. And I use cheap craft paint. You don't have to buy expensive miniature paints. Now, if you already haven't done so, go ahead and check out this 2-part series on how to play the game from, I think, Easy Board Games is their name. It is an excellent tutorial that's going to give you the rules on how to play this game. Now, with my playthrough in this video, I'm not going step by step with every single rule. I'm just going to share the rules as I stumble along onto them as I play through 2 turns of this game. Because primarily I wanted to give you a sense of how the game feels in terms of gameplay. So I'm more focused on showcasing how those first 2 turns come out and maybe some of the choices that you have in the midst of it. I'm also going to try to film the rest of the gameplay, but to be perfectly honest, it takes a lot of time to film and edit the video doing these gameplays. So not 100% sure if I'm going to do that. Go ahead and make a comment below if you are interested in seeing the rest of the game play itself out, whether or not that would be helpful for you. But again, check out this other video. It's going to be more helpful in laying out all of the rules. And I'm positive that I'm going to get some of the rules wrong. So check out the comments below. I will go ahead and pin any rules corrections that I find out there. And if you are familiar with the rules, go ahead and make comments below as well, just to correct the mistakes that I made. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, for setup, go ahead and go to the mission booklet. We're going to go to the first mission here, which is Morrow River, and we take a look at the resources that we start with. So it's 4 manpower, 2 munitions, and 3 fuel. So come over here down at the bottom, and we do 4 manpower, 2 munitions, and 3 fuel. And you always start with 0 victory points. And then up here, you always start off with 1 of each, except for your victory point. So you go ahead and shuffle all of your commander cards, and then you draw 3 of them. And these are the ones that you're working with, and you set the others aside. And then here you just turn over your headquarters 1, and you leave the 2nd and the 3rd upgrade buildings flipped over on its side, and it has nice little reference cards until you flip them over. And then you just set up the board accordingly. I went ahead and put just randomly some of these 3D components to it. And I didn't obviously fill up every single one, just because, to be perfectly honest, it's a little bit of a pain to move all your units around. Without it, you can just shove it along, but with these, you got to pick it up. So I just make it aesthetically pleasing. I don't try to match everything. And I also don't have these permanent cover destroyed. That's sort of an option. Whenever you destroy one of these, you go ahead and put a white dye on it to show that it's destroyed, but I feel like it clutters up the board too much. So I basically made it so that this is permanent on the board versus the ones that you make, like the sandbags, they are removed, as well as the tank traps and the barbed wire. And then I put down these little markers showing my spawn zone on each side. And this is the German side. And then you pick 3 units of infantry. You don't have the option for the light building or the light vehicle. So any combination, I could pick all 3 MG42 teams if I wanted to, but that would be foolish. So I'm going to go ahead and actually set up 2 teams of the Grenadiers and then 1 team of the MG42 team. Actually, before we do that, we do have to roll off and see who goes first. So this is the Wehrmacht, and they got 1 green, and the Americans, they got no green. So the Wehrmacht will go first. If there had been a tie of greens, then you look at who has more blacks. So the Wehrmacht is going to go ahead and place, and to be honest, everyone places pretty much in the same areas because you want to maximize being able to go to each of these 3 resource points, and they're the ones that are 3 away from your starting base, and you can pretty much put them almost anywhere because you can move up to 3. These ones over here, usually you grab a second round because they are more than 3 away, and you're typically going to grab a vehicle to do that. All right, so here on the US side, I opted to go with the mortar team and then 2 regular riflemen. You'll notice with the mortar team, you do need to put the red die because you need to spend a command point to set up. And I'm going to pretty much arrange them in mirror fashion with what the Wehrmacht did. And so I'm going to just place them here. And typically when you build, you alternate back and forth because it might have an impact on how you're going to be building out your units. But in this case, like I mentioned before, this is going to be, the first round is always to go grab these initial resource objectives. So since the Wehrmacht is going first, they go ahead and grab an operations card, and then they're going to look at it secretly, and they either have the choice of having 2 rounds or 4 rounds. And they're going to go ahead and choose 4 rounds because they want to be able to activate all 3 of their units. But they keep this secret, and they place this down on the board facing the direction so that your opposing player knows that it is the long one. And that's going to be either 3 to 5 rounds. Or if you went short, they would know that it's between 2 and 4, but they wouldn't know exactly how many. So we'll go ahead and go, and we get 3 command points. And pretty much I'm going to choose very simply to place them in the hexes where they're going to move. So this first unit is going to 1, 2, 3 to capture this point. And we're going to move all of the cubes up there. And then pretty much the US side is going to do exactly the same. So you go back and forth. I'll go ahead and just put all these up here. And then these 3 up here. So all of my Wehrmacht moved forward. And the thing is, I'll show you on the US side, I could have chosen to go 1, 2, and then with my 3rd one for the round, done 3, so that they are just moving up like this. So you're able to split up your 3 cubes between any of your units that you want, and there's strategy behind why you want to do that. And then next round, I'll go ahead and use my 3rd one to move this forward, so that all 3, and you can only use max 3 CP for each one of your units. Then I would spend 2 to move this one up here. And then in my last round, I would spend my last 3 CP to go ahead and move them up to there. Now we finish the maneuver phase, so we can go on to the damage phase. You automatically get an XP, a white cube, and you place it on here for the XP for the damage phase. Even if you don't attack or fight at all, you automatically, both sides, get an XP. And then next round I'll show you how to assign damage, but right now we're too far away, we can't really assign damage to each other, so we're going to go ahead and move on and claim the places that we actually captured. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my flag and stick it onto the 3 locations that I captured, and I will do the same for the Wehrmacht. And once I capture those points, I go ahead and take a look at what resources I have. And so there I'm going to go up 1 munition and 1 manpower. And then for this one, I'm going up another munition and then a fuel. And then finally over here, a manpower and a fuel. And so now we have 3 lined up, no victory points. And then I can move all of these up corresponding to these. So all of my resources are going to move up 3. So this becomes 7, this becomes 5, and this becomes 6. And now I'm able to spend these resources to spawn more units or to pay for upgrades. And pretty much for the Wehrmacht, it is exactly the same because this board is mirrored, and so it is symmetrical. So these are all going to go up the exact same amounts. So first round really is basically doing the same thing. There would really be no reason why you wouldn't capture those points, but maybe for other maps there are other objectives or strategies that you would employ. So we'll go ahead and shop for the Wehrmacht, and here I'm going to go ahead and get the Kubelwagen, and I'm going to spend 2 manpower and 1 fuel. So 2 manpower, 1 fuel. So I'm going to place my Kubelwagen right here, and then it has 2 hit points. So I use the yellow die because it has yellow showing that it's a light vehicle class, and it has 2 hit points here. You'll also notice it does come with this symbol, which means a speed die. So I grab my white die and I put it on here, and basically the speed die means each round I get 1 free movement. And then the US Army is going to be basically doing the exact same, but their version is the Jeep. And so they're going to do the same, and then it'll come back to me. I'm going to build a Grenadier team for 4 manpower. So this goes down to 1. And when you have a Kubelwagen vehicle in your spawn zone, and you spawn an infantry, the infantry can be chosen to go into the Kubelwagen to basically spawn there. Typically you need to spend a CP, a command point, in order to go into a vehicle that is adjacent to you, but in spawning you can actually spawn in without spending any CP. You'll notice I have a bunch of ammunition and some fuel that I haven't spent yet, so I can choose to upgrade some of my units that are already on the board. So for example, if I spend 3 ammunition, I can give the high explosive ability onto the Grenadier in addition to the anti-tank. Here for the MG42 team, I can spend 1 XP, which I got from the damage phase. I'll do that, I'll spend it, and basically give my MG42 an extra anti-infantry die. So I just go ahead and place this on there, and it reminds me now, instead of just 1 base anti-infantry, as shown here, I have an extra, so it will do 2 infantry damage now. And then finally, I'm going to go ahead and flip over my building 2 with 1 manpower and 1 fuel, or 2 fuel I mean. And I'll flip this over, and now all these units are available, but right now I don't have enough manpower in order to purchase any of these things, but it just frees it up to be able to purchase later. So we'll look over here at the US, pretty much the same thing with the Willys Jeep. I'm also going to position it here. It has 2 hit points. It comes with the speed dice, and that costs 2 manpower and 1 fuel. And then I'm also going to spawn for 4 manpower another rifleman squad. And just like the Wehrmacht, I'm going to put that inside of my Jeep. And you can just set this aside if you want and just put a white die showing that this is inside of the Jeep. Either way, it doesn't really matter. I just go ahead and stick it right on here. And then here I'm going to go ahead and spend 3 ammunition to give the unit that I just spawned another anti-infantry. Now, one thing to note, you can only do this upgrade once. So I can either have chosen to do anti-tank or anti-infantry, and I can't repeat that. But I can later on choose to spend 2 XP once I get it to again add anti-tank or anti-infantry. So just keep that in mind. So now turn goes over to the opposite side, the American. So I'm going to draw an operations card, and secretly I'm going to pick, I'll go ahead and this time actually I'll pick the lower of the 2 just to show you how that works. And I'll go ahead and set that aside, point it towards the board. Oh, and I forgot last round to bring back all of my command cubes. So now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and activate my speed die, because that I have to use that first. So you just flip it over showing that you used it, and I'll have a free movement here. And then I'm going to go ahead and spend all 3 of these to move it to this point over here. And see what I mean when these things sort of get in the way? A quick note that all of the cover only benefits infantry, not vehicles. Now on this side for the Wehrmacht, I noticed that my opponent chose short, so it could be as few as 2 rounds. So I'm going to right away go ahead and use my speed die to move this guy 1. And then I have my 3 CP that I get for the round. Now instead of using it for the Kubelwagen, I'm going to go ahead and move, spend 1 and then 2 to bring him up here into the building. And then I'm going to spend my 3rd one to flip this over and set up my MG42 machine gun. And facing is important, so I am going to go ahead and have it face this hex, which means it has range this direction. So it is able to shoot those units right there. And it is now on Overwatch as well. So up here, since they set up and it is on Overwatch, if I move anywhere within the range of that unit, I will automatically lose a unit. So let's say I move this over here. Because of Overwatch, I totally will lose a unit. And then if I move again over here, I'll lose another unit. So of course I don't want to do that. So I'm going to keep them there. And what I'm going to do is use 1 to disembark the Jeep and move here. And then use another one to go here so that I can capture this victory point. So now I only used 2, so I have a 3rd one. So I'll go ahead and use that one to set up my mortar team here. And again, facing is important, and so I'm going to choose to face here so that it has range moving this way. And so here I'll go ahead and move 3 so that my Kubelwagen is going up here. And over here, I'm going to use all 3 to go 1, 2, 3 and actually move in to this resource over here. So being sneaky and making my way around there, because I know that there are only 3 rounds this round because of the operations card. So the Wehrmacht have their set of CP, and they saw them take that point. So they're going to go ahead and use this to go 1, 2, and go into the building here. Now with regular riflemen or with grenadiers, facing doesn't matter for them. So it doesn't matter which direction that they're facing, they can shoot all the way around. And for my last CP, I'm going to go ahead and move this unit over 1. So now we can assign damage. And right now, let's go ahead and start on this side of the board. The Kubelwagen, we look here, has an anti-infantry, and then the grenadiers also have an anti-infantry. So what we do is we take 2 dice and we stick 2 anti-infantry right next to the unit that we're shooting at. Because these guys can shoot from being inside of a carrier. These units don't have range or line of sight. They have to be within 2. This unit up here is actually going to go ahead and lay down suppressive fire onto this unit here, which means they actually don't get an attack off because they're busy ducking. But they're going to be able to shoot at them. And actually, I should have done all of the suppression fire first. So sorry about that. But I'm going to set down 2 right next to them because they have an extra anti-infantry die. And then these guys here are going to place 1 die down here. Now let's go ahead and check out the XP that we get for that. So we get 1 free XP just because it's the start of the damage phase. But for every enemy unit that I'm shooting at, right here is 1, 2, and 3 units that I'm shooting at. So 3 different units. So I get 3 more. So 4 XP total. Now we go over to the US side and do the same thing. We're going to get an XP, additional XP. I didn't spend my previous one. And so because these are upgraded, there's going to be 2 anti-infantry dice that I set up there. These guys are able to shoot up there, but it's just 1 anti-infantry die up there. And because these guys, the mortar team, can shoot 5 away, they can shoot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're within range. I'm going to do high explosive die right next to them like that. All right, so really quickly here, I want to talk about line of sight and range. So basically every unit has a line of sight of 2 hexes, regardless of what their range is. So for example, when you look at the mortar team, even though they have a range of 5, they need to have someone spotting for them that is at least 2 hexes away from their target. So in this example here, the enemy up here on the building is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away, so it does have range, but because it isn't 2 spaces away, it actually can't see it. But this unit here, which is 2 spaces away here, is spotting for this unit. So that's universal. Even the tanks only have a spotting range of 2, and so you need other friendly units within 2 of the enemy in order for anything that has further than range 2 to be able to shoot at it. Now the exception here are wherever you see this eyeball. So the 50 cal team and on the Wehrmacht side, the MG42 team, they actually have a sight range of 3. And they have a shooting range of 3 as well. I actually should have placed this onto the MG42 team right here just to remind me, but I'm so used to them having sight 3 that I don't bother to put that on there anymore. So just keep that in mind. And then even here, when you look at the tanks, you'll see that this one has a range of 3, but again, you need a friendly unit within 2. The other exception is if a unit has camouflage, which is an upgrade for some of the units. Basically, that means you have to be within 1 hex in order to spot it, rather than 2 away. Unless a unit like this one has this symbol where it says spots camo. And in this case, if you upgrade the major with 2 sight, it increases all the way up to 4, and it will spot any camoed unit enemy from 4 away. Also regarding line of sight, it is center to center of the hex where buildings are interfering with line of sight. That's the only thing that blocks line of sight are buildings, not other units or enemy units. And here, let me remove this for a second. Let's pretend there was an enemy unit here. They do have line of sight to each other because center to center does skirt right on the edge of the building, but it doesn't block. Only if they were here where there's intervening terrain does it block line of sight. But HE damage like this, where you see an arrow going over, they can shoot over buildings as long as they have a spotter who has line of sight to the enemy. And then finally over here, my rifleman squad can fire back. They can't target the infantry because they're inside of the Kubelwagen, but they are targeting the Kubelwagen first. If I manage to destroy the Kubelwagen, then all of the infantry are destroyed inside of it. You'll also notice here that the Jeep only has a range of 2, and that's why this Jeep can't target the units inside the building, because it is 1, 2, 3 away. So this is how you resolve combat. Shooting is all simultaneous. If you look at this reference sheet on the back of Tier 3 building, you'll notice and try to match up on this matrix what you're shooting at based off of the die that you have. So you'll notice anti-infantry going against green or infantry units, there's no blocking. The shield means you get a roll to block potentially. Or this sign means it does no damage at all, so it's immune to tanks, the red. But it's shooting at infantry, so there is no block. I automatically lose a unit here. And that is from this die. So I remove the die. And then up here, I would typically lose 2 guys, but because they're in a building, they have an opportunity to roll 3 defense dice just by being in cover with the building. So let's go ahead and roll that. And so what they did was have 1 successful block and 2 failures. If these were black, these would also be blocks too. But in this case, only 1 successful block, so 1 actually goes through, so they lose an infantry. So we resolve the same way. Now here, these units up here are going to lose 1. Oh, I apologize, this is wrong. They should not have gotten this die from this unit because they're suppressed. So only the HE is going to be hitting them. Now, here's the interesting thing about HE. It automatically, with buildings, you'll notice here, high explosives automatically does a damage to a building on this bottom row. So this portion of the building is going to take a point of damage, so I just reduce it by 1, regardless of whether or not they block. So now I roll my HE die. I got a black, so anything that's black will mean that the explosive does 1 point of damage. If I would roll the green, it would have been 2 points of damage. A red would have been 0 damage. So the 1 infantry is removed to signify that 1 point of damage. Now the MG42 is shooting at them. They automatically lose 2 units. And then finally over here, 2 units are taken off of this. And then here, if we look at the matrix for a light vehicle, which is the Kubelwagen, they get to roll defense dice. So 1 shot of anti-infantry. If I roll a black, which I did, or a green, they block it, so it takes no damage. So now that phase is over, we go ahead and capture points. So the Americans will capture that point, and this point hiding back here, which means that they go up 1 victory and 1 fuel. Another victory and a manpower. And then over here is a victory and a fuel. The Wehrmacht is only going to get this resource, which is a victory and a manpower. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and adjust our stockpiles according to what we got. And now we can go shopping. I'm going to go ahead and buy the 222 for 2 manpower and 3 fuel. I'll go ahead and place it over here. I have a lot of ammunition, so I'm going to go ahead and spend 3 to give one of my grenadiers the HE damage. I'm going to hold on to my resources because I have a plan for the next turn. For the US, I will go ahead and buy an M8 Greyhound. Actually, I'm going to place it right over here. Then I want to flip over my third tier building. To uncover this, but I won't be able to purchase anything yet. And then I'm actually going to spend 1 experience and choose this commander, the Recon Support Company, and place that down here. And once you pick one, you can't switch that out. You're committed to this. And up here is the XP cost to go ahead and unlock. And I'll go ahead and spend another one to unlock this one. And I'm going to save up my resources as well. And this is the board state at the end of turn 2. So there you have it. Hopefully this video is helpful for you. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you are interested in more of this kind of content. And in particular, make a comment below if you're interested in a follow-up video that goes through the rest of the turns for this particular game. Otherwise, click on the link below to go to my Patreon page where you can get in on this month's gratitude gifts. And also make sure to check out my linked videos if you are interested in knowing how I painted up everything. Happy gaming! We'll see you next time.